Now, if you were watching college football, odds are you probably weren't paying attention to Tulane and Duke. And this is one of the more underrated games coming into this week. We knew that Darian Mensah was coming back to Tulane, the team that he transferred from, in favor of Duke. We knew that it was, there's NIL portion of it, and we knew there was going to be a fun atmosphere. And this game did not disappoint. This was a fun game from start to finish. It had a number of things that were really fun to watch. And if you're a Tulane fan, you obviously are feeling great about this win purely from the Darian Mensah coming back and we just beat him, proving that, hey, we're fine without you. And another part of that is that your quarterback played so much better than Darian Mensah did. Maybe not so much better, but definitely better. Jake Retzlaff went 15 of 23 for 245 yards, 0 touchdowns passing, but he rushed for 17 times for 111 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was a great performance from a guy that you needed to play well. You needed him to perform. And the one thing I will say is that this team had the perfect game plan for Duke. This is a Duke defense we talked about coming into this game as very aggressive, very talented, is capable of being disruptive, and you needed to find a game plan that was going to combat that. And I thought Tulane did a number of different things that made them look really good. They had a little bit of a shovel pass where Retzlaff's running one way and he shovels it to a guy running the other way. That goes for a touchdown. They ran different swing passes that got their players out in space and kind of negated what Duke was trying to do defensively in terms of being disruptive. You ran a number of different counters, reverses. You used Brendan Sullivan and Jake Retzlaff in the backfield at the same time. This team deserves a lot of credit for their ability to play smart because Duke was going to beat them straight up. Duke was the better team, the more talented team. And if you're trying to play that head up, you're going to lose. And John Summerall and this staff knew that. They knew that they needed to find creative ways to slow this team down. They knew that they needed to figure out how are we going to gain an advantage because our guys don't have the talent or as much talent to be able to play them one-on-one. Now, they do have quite a bit of talent that's going to be able to handle that, but that defense for Duke is no joke. And there's a reason why Tulane called some of the plays they did, because they knew that they weren't going to win them if they were asking for one-on-one matchups. They have to use misdirection. They have to use counters. And they did a great job of that. They did a great job of, we found ways to exploit your aggression and to get you out of position. The number of times where the offense went one way and then shifted or made a play, made a little shovel pass, ran a counter, run a reverse, where Duke's defense is, again, it's an aggressive group and usually that's going to work. But if you have a team that is dialed into countering your moves, then it looks really bad. And Tulane did a great job of getting Duke out of position and finding ways to gain an advantage when Duke's team was trying to make disruptive plays and trying to ruin their plan. And you have to give a lot of credit to Jake Retzlaff. He looked cool, calm, and collected throughout the entire game. He did not make mistakes. He did not let anything really get to him. And even after they would make a mistake, Retzlaff did have the one fumble. They were able to kind of figure things out and just stay calm. Not let the moment get too big for them. Not let the spotlight get too bright. Jake Retzlaff deserves a ton of credit for that. And this is a team that played with a ton of confidence. They played with a ton of energy. And that's one thing we've seen through the first two games. This team may not be the most talented. This team may not be the best team in the country. But they are going to play with a ton of energy. They're going to play very fast, and they're going to make mistakes if they make them at 100%. They're going to make them at full speed. That is one thing you do have to give them credit for. Now, they did find ways to wreak havoc against Duke's offense. They found ways to create turnovers. Javion White, honestly, might be one of the best defenders that nobody's really talking about. That dude made so many plays that he had the pick. He had a number of other plays where he could have intercepted the ball. When they needed a play to be made, in the passing game, he was making that play. Javion White is so much fun to watch. And again, this defense plays with a ton of confidence. And you have to give John Summerall a ton of credit for that, because they are, for the most part, there's a bunch of new faces that are playing in this defense. And they look like they've been playing together for a while. That's really exciting. And you also have to feel good about Tulane. Even if you're watching this game, you lost a ton of talent, whether that's to the NFL draft, whether that's graduation, or the transfer portal. You lost your starting quarterback to another team. You lost a number of quarterbacks this year. You brought in so many new faces. Brendan Sullivan's one of them. Jake Retzlaff's another. You brought in 3 other quarterbacks, and so you brought 5 total. 4 of them are still on the roster. TJ Finley is now at Georgia State. This has been a very tumultuous offseason for John Summerall. He had to figure out, what is my team going to look like? What is my roster going to look like? And all he did was get them ready to play and get them ready to play at a high level. Now, the next game is going to be a much different test. So we'll talk about that when that comes, but that is going to be a tough test, and they are in a good position to handle that test. Now, on the Duke side of things, we talked about last week, mental mistakes killing them. This is a team that is extremely talented, and this is a team that could still surprise people towards the end of the year. I think that they can still beat a number of ACC teams, but they have to figure some things out first. The mental mistakes, the number of times that this team had opportunities to put points on the board and didn't, is really what cost them. It's really what cost them. They had 3 different kicks that could have resulted in points. That's 9 points. They lost by 7. They had the first field goal. It was the first or second field goal they kicked. They missed. There was another one where the snap got botched. It got, I don't know if it went right through the holder's hands or whatever. Fumbles that. They don't get that one. They also had a blocked field goal. That's 9 points you left on the table that you could have had. Penalties were also a problem. You had a roughing the kicker penalty. That hurt. You also had a number of throws that Darian Mensah makes, and whether that's on him or the receiver, there were a combination of them, but you made some really nice throws. It's just that your receiver drops the ball, they're out of bounds, or Mensah just overthrows them a little bit. The little things Duke is not doing right now. They are not playing fundamentally sound football. They are not making smart decisions, and the miscues continue to compound and ruin things for them. We saw it against Illinois last week. Same thing happened again against Tulane. And that's ultimately what cost him. Now, Darian Mensah finished 30 of 51 for 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. There were times where this team looked like they were going to be unstoppable. They looked like they could really take it to Tulane, and they found themselves down 24-9 at halftime. And if you're a fan of this team, if you're Manny Diaz, you have to find ways to get your team more disciplined. Because right now you've just lost 2 games in a row where if you don't make those mental mistakes, if you don't make those turnovers, you don't leave points on the board, you maybe have 2 wins instead of 2 losses. And those are the things that are killing them right now. Now, the thing with that is, this is a team that's so talented and has so many good players and can make some of those plays that if they put that together, they're going to pull off an upset or 2 later in the season. As long as they stick with it, and as long as they don't quit and fix those mistakes, this is going to be a tough team to beat down the road. This is going to be a team that has a lot of exciting things ahead of them as long as they can figure it out. Because if you're able to, this game specifically, if they put those points on the board, they don't make mistakes, they don't let the little things get away from them, I think Duke does win this game. It's just that Tulane didn't make as many mistakes. They didn't make as many problems for themselves. They had the same number of penalties, but they didn't have the little things. When they needed to make a play, their quarterback and receivers made a play. When they needed to put points on the board, they did that. Duke continues to be hampered by those mental mistakes, and until they fix it, it's going to be a problem. If they do fix it, this is a dangerous team. If you go and look at some of the plays that they came up short on, them making those plays is going to make them a terrifying team in the ACC. And the ACC is about as confusing and crazy as it can be right now. And you throw in a Duke team that their record indicates that they're much worse than they actually are, that's going to be a problem. Now, if you want to take a positive from this, that is one of them. Also, Darian Mensah is going to be really fun for them. Even though he didn't have his greatest game, I think he would probably say that there were things he could have done better. He is going to be really good for them. That was a smart addition. That was a good addition for this team, and they are in great hands as long as he's running the show. It's just that you came up short. You came up short once again, and you have to figure out how do we fix things for next time.